It's nice.
Yeah, it's really
It was
nice.
set up nicely.
It's very nice. Very well done.
Yeah. Might just go into the catering business.
It's not a bad gig.
Not a bad gig, huh? Speaking of the show.
Only one person. I sent Yaakov a nasty email. But not about, but this is a lefty person. Yeah.
A lefty?
Yeah.
That Melissa's from the show.
Yeah, because he's a liberal. In other words,
I understand.
he's a liberal politics.
Not a homo. Not a.
Yeah.
Oh. Really, we have still some of those in the show.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
It's done the rounds now.
I don't know what compelled me to send it out, but I just
Thank you for this one. Yeah,
okay.
all the references. Needed.
All right, good.
Yeah.
All right. So the conclusion that we came to yesterday, last week was, are you allowed to save a chair or a seat for someone in a place where there aren't a lot of seats? Save a seat for someone on the bus when there aren't a lot of places to sit. Save a chumash for someone when you know they're going to run out of chumashim. So these are all questions as far as they can translate into halacha. So Rav Sharaga's argument is you cannot be tofes for someone. You cannot be grab a hold of something and reserve it when it creates liability for other people. That's the general rule. So therefore, he says, it's permissible for a person to take a seat for himself or a place for himself, but not for others. This is not true just in taking a seat in the yeshiva in the shir, but let's say in a catering hall where your friend says, "Save me a seat. I don't want to lose out," or makom ba'otobus, or a seat on the bus, or litvos chumash b'makom she'ein maspik chumashim, or to take a chumash for your friend when there aren't enough chumashim. She'ein adam rishai litvos listam adam al cheshbon mishu hu acher. You're not allowed to take something for someone else when it creates a loss or a liability for somebody else. So we said we were going to take a look at this footnote because I don't know if it's so black and white.
Right, I think there are situations otherwise.
The one with the yeshiva was only one where you have a chavrusa sitting across from you, wasn't
Right.
going into a shear.
Right.
That should be different.
So when you're saving a seat for your chavrusa, that is different. He said that's okay because it's not creating a liability for someone else. You need to be able to sit across from your chavrusa. So it's really you're saving it for yourself as much as you're saving it for somebody else. So he says v'chein kosav b'sefer mishpatei haTorah upashut d'chol za'ari kishein p'kisaot pnuyim. He says, of course, the limitation, or I guess I'm even reluctant to call it a prohibition. The prohibition of saving a seat for somebody else is when there are not sufficient seats.
Restriction.
Because then you're creating a liability or loss for others. But if there are plenty of other seats, and you're not going to run out of seats, it's just a question of who you'd like to sit next to, so then it is permissible. V'hinei ayin bebeis Yosef shekosa. The Ibhabal Chov Tofas LaEtzmo L'Bal Chov Acher Bevas Achas. The Beis Yosef tells us an interesting halacha. Let's say you take hold of funds for yourself that is owed to you at the same time, simultaneously with taking funds that is owed to your friend. So Kagon, Shehil Haloi V'Chayev Lo Meya V'Lachaveiro Meya. so let's say there's a debtor. He owes both Ruvain and Shimon $100 each. Okay, v'habal chov tofas masayim b'vas achas. So Ruvain takes hold of $200 of the debtor's money, with basically the intent that I'm going to take 100 for myself and 100 for Shimon. He says, "De'ein zenechshav ketofes lebal chov b'makom shechav le'acherim, kevin demigu dezachi lenafshe, zachi nami lechavre." And it's an interesting principle because it's not so intuitive. If the issue is that it's not fair for me to deprive other people for the sake of this guy, then you would say it wouldn't make a difference. But the rabbis applied a principle of migu. Since I'm being able, I have the capacity or the ability to acquire for myself, that extends to being able to acquire for somebody else. As long as it's being done simultaneously with my acquisition, I can acquire for somebody else as well. Velo od, and we'll go even further. Ela afilu im habal chov tafas mea rak avor chavero velo tafas la'atzmo klal. Even I'll say even further, even if Ruvain takes 100 from the debtor for the sake of Shimon, and he doesn't take anything for himself, since in theory he could be taking that $100 for himself, that we allow him to take it on behalf of Shimon. Ubipshitus mashma midivrei habeis Yosef she'achar shetofas l'tzarach chavero kol hameya yochol litvos gam la'atzma od meya. It seems like from the Beis Yosef that since he's taking the first 100 for the sake of Shimon, he can take the second 100 for himself. Uv'shulchan aruch pasak b'stama v'zel l'shono. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins this way. He says, Im haloi v'chayiv gam l'toifes, if the debtor owes money to both the person in front of him and a certain person who's not in front of him, zacha b'tfisa, so then Ruvain, who's standing in front of him, can, through his acquisition of his own money, can acquire on behalf of Shimon. Migu di boy zochi lenafshe, zochi lechavri ad kan l'shono, v'chein pasak be'ir shushan. So it's you apply this principle. Since I could acquire for myself, I can acquire on behalf of my friend. Amnam hasmasham chalak al divrei maran habeis Yosef v'ha'ir shushan usvir le'diachol litvos rak ad kama shechayavim lo. And the Sma says there are limitations to this. He says, listen, you can only take a hold of that which is owed to you. You can't take more. So kigon she'im halo v'chayv l'Ruvain v'Shimon l'chol echad meya yachol Ruvain litvos rak meya keneged chova v'lo yoter. So Ruvain, in our illustration where the debtor owes money to Ruvain and Shimon, and Ruvain wants to take 200, according to the Sma, he can't. He can only take up to 100 because that's what's owed to him. Meaning, if he wants to, he can take up to 100 and he can split it any way he wants. He can take 50 for himself and 50 for Shimon. Let's say he's a nice guy and he knows that this debtor is going to run out of town. And he knows that the guy's only got $100 on him. So he has an option. He can either take 100 for himself and doesn't give, doesn't care at all about Shimon. Or he can say, look, I know you owe Shimon money as well. Give me 100, I'll take 50 for me and 50 for Shimon. At least we know we'll get something out of you. Aval Ruvain lo yachol litvos meya chamishim afilu bevasachas ayin sham. But according to the Sma, he's not allowed to take more than you can't take 150, for example. V'ayin b'shach v'haktzos Choshen v'ha'erech hashulchan shepasku k'divrei Beis Yosef. But it seems like the majority of the achronim paskin like the Beis Yosef, that once you're taking for yourself, you can take even more for Shimon. But others paskin like the Sma. And a person can say he paskins like the Shulchan Aruch, where he could say, like if a guy grabbed the chair for himself and for his friend, that he's doing it simultaneously, he could say, well, I'm going like the Sma. That since I'm allowed to take a chair for myself, I can immediately take a chair for somebody else. But a Sephardi can come along and say, well, we paskin like the Bet Yosef. And according to the Bet Yosef, you're not allowed to take more than just one chair that is coming to you. So I don't care how you paskin. I'm paskining like the Bet Yosef. The imkain benidon didam lefi haBeis Yosef yeshnei drachim litvos makom lechavero beheter. So according to the Beis Yosef, there would be two scenarios or two bases for you to be able to take something for your friend. Aleph, al yedei sheyitvos shnei hamekamot bevat achat. So you could take both places at the same time. And Beis sheyitvos kodem lechavero ve'achar kach yitvos la'atzmo. And the second one is that you could grab a chair for your friend first, reserve a chair for your friend, and then reserve a chair for yourself. Those both work. And therefore, a guy, he's basically saying it could result in a fight. Because a person could say, well, since I'm taking for myself, I can take for my friend as well. But if you already reserved the chair for yourself and then your friend yells it to you across the room, hey, save a seat for me, then according to the Beis Yosef, it's already too late because it has to be done with simultaneously, right? V'yesh lahoyer, the chol ma shemuter litvos la'acher hainu medina dekevin shuhu bal chov arminu migdu zoch lenafshi zoch inami lechabre. So this whole principle works because based on the fact that you can acquire for yourself, you can acquire for your friend simultaneously also. But if I have no interest at all, then I can't reserve or take on behalf of my friend. Or let's say the debtor owes me nothing. Or the person that I want to take for, is not a creditor. You can't grab on his behalf. In Cain, then we have two really ramifications of this. Let's say you want to reserve a seat for someone who hasn't yet paid for the bus. A guy who's going to come on two stops later. He's not entitled yet to a seat. He hasn't paid the fare yet.
So it's about the paying, it's not about the.
I guess maybe it's as soon as you get on the bus. And if you haven't paid yet for the bus.
But if he pays for him when he goes on.
So if you've both paid.
No, like let's say one guy pays for his friend.
He pays in advance.
Pays 2/3.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's entitled to a seat yet before he actually gets on the bus. That's a good question.
That guy owns 2 seats.
Right.
If you pay for 2, then maybe he owns 2 seats. That's true.
But the guy has a monthly pass, so he doesn't have.
I don't know. Does it work that way? I know on an airplane, if a guy buys 2 seats, those 2 seats are his.
Yeah.
But on a bus, on a crowded bus, if you pay 2 fares.
The fare doesn't entitle you to a seat.
That seat.
It
It
doesn't
entitle you to
entitle
go on the bus.
But you're not allocated any specific seat on the bus like you are on the aeroplane. So
Right,
the bus is free for all.
exactly.
So if the bus is full and you have to stand and hold on to the
Yeah.
line.
The fare doesn't entitle you to a seat.
We'll still get you to where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
Just don't get a seat.
Aval yitachen shim. So let me just finish this last sentence. Aval yitachen shim amina ki az yesh mechila mishar anashim kemo shekosov b'mishpatei haTorah. But it does stand to reason she'im amina came that if this is common practice already within a community, that people reserve seats for each other on the bus, then people are moichel, then maybe it will work. And maybe it's understood based on convention. This is what the Sefer Mishpatei HaTorah writes. He says that in certain scenarios you could reserve for somebody else, based on the fact that that's become already convention and therefore people are moichel. But I wouldn't say like on an Israeli bus that saving a seat for someone else on the bus has become convention. I'm not convinced that that's the case. It depends, I think, on how crowded the bus is.
If someone puts their bag on the other seat, I
Yeah.
think you're entitled to say, excuse me, may I sit here? They can't.
Yeah,
throw
I
it
just
on
saw
the table.
recently a video clip where this woman put her bag on the seat. And the guy said, let the older person sit down. And she started,
Getting angry. Right?
yeah, they started
Yeah.
getting into an altercation.
Right. You
Yeah.
gotta be careful when you ask.
There's such,
For the way you ask.
Some of those, in some situations, I just stand for that.
What happens in a situation, just referencing this here, that you have what we did in Thailand. One person is a Sephardi and one is an Ashkenaz, they both have different halachas, probably, like, the outcome is different, one such for Sephardi is this, one for Ashkenaz. How do you come to a resolution?
It's a really good question.
Civil-
Usually the Beis Din has a standard by which they paskin. The Dayanim have to have consensus among themselves. If a person would come to an Ashkenazi Beis Din, the Beis Din would have a right to paskin.
Yes, but if one is a Sephardi, one's an Ashkenaz, and
The Dayanim themselves,
right, like
they would have to agree among
In
themselves in advance how they're going to rule. But the bottom line is that there does seem to be this difference of opinion. If I'm reserving or taking something for myself, can I simultaneously take it from my friend? According to the Beis Yosef, you can. According to the Sma, you cannot. So this is problematic because now we're ending up with a situation where where altercations could result based on the fact that two people who are Talmidei Chachamim, one, it's like that commercial about the fruit drink.
Right.
More fruit, yeah, and the same price. More fruit, same price. Is it ribis or not? Right? Okay.
So Rabbi, what about if you, in the case of the $100, where you're collecting for the two, you're collecting two payments. What if Shimon had made Reuben his shaliach?
Yeah,
to collect that?
that was my question too.
Like, how would that must differ? So in the case of reserving a seat, if you take it the same way, first of all, you have to know that there's not enough seats for the number of people coming, which I'm not sure. We on the bus.
So I think we said that even if a person is appointed as a shaliach, then it's still going to be a problem if taking a hold of that item is going to create liability for others. De'ein havdel bein asa shaliach lelo asa shaliach. B'chol mikra hatofes lebal chov b'makom shechav lacherem lo kana. That's how the Shulchan Aruch says. It doesn't matter whether the person was formally made into a shaliach or not. By taking on behalf of somebody else, if it creates liability for others, even an appointed shaliach can't go ahead and do this. Okay, let's go.
A shaliach can't collect the debt on behalf of the person who appointed.
No, he could, provided it doesn't may create a liability.
But the liability,
So how
if someone owes
do you know
money
that?
to two people,
Yeah,
can you not collect yours and then be appointed to collect somebody else's?
of course you can. That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
but it sounded
But
like.
what if there's a long line of people
Right.
that are all
Well,
waiting
also
to
avoid
collect what's
I
owed to
see.
them, and there's limited funds.
Okay, no fair
So,
enough.
right.
Okay, I didn't pick up that.
So you'd have to have some inference that the area you're gonna sit in or the money you're gonna collect, that it's possibly not gonna make it through everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
That's right.
So in the case of a synagogue, let's say the GDTR hall, where you have a number of seats put out, all of a sudden there's an influx of people that maybe weren't expected or whatever. So there's more chairs that can be brought out.
Yes.
So does that stop you from reserving the seat then?
No, I think in a situation that you just described, it would be perfectly fine to reserve a seat. The person may be inconvenienced. They'll have to wait until more seats are brought out.
Right.
No, that's not a terrible thing. That's not a
Sitting at
terrible.
the front, sitting at the back, we're not distinguishing as long as you get a seat.
Yeah, well, again, we talked about this guy who reserves the middle row in the theater, and he says, "Oh, he reserves 10 seats," and people are coming in and they want to sit in the middle row, and he says, "Oh, my friends are coming. They're coming. I'm meeting them here."
Jackets, yeah.
Right? He puts all the jackets down. At some point, it becomes chav la'acherim because you're depriving other people of the premium
Right,
seats.
so that does.
So if the front seat in shul, it's the opposite. And the back row is the premium seats. So
No comment. Jews,
something common.
Yeah. Okay,
Little kids that grow up, they still want to sit in the back.
all right. All right, shalach sikum kesef lachaveru v'rotze lachzor bo. Okay, a person sends a sum of money to his friend and now wishes to retract. Okay, what is this talking about? Echad mechaverai mitchatein v'hizmin oti lachatunato. One of my friends is getting married, and he invited me to his wedding. Ume'ezeh siba shehi lo yacholti lahagia. And for some reason, whatever reason was, I'm not able to attend. V'shalachti sikum kesef nichbad lematana avur hachatan. So I sent a significant amount of money as a gift for the chassan, im chaver acher sheholech lechatuna, with a friend that was going to the wedding. V'kodem shehigia chaveri leulam, chazarti bo milatet et kol hasikum mikama sibot. And before my friend got to the wedding, I decided I didn't want to give him. I really don't want to give that gift. Maybe my wife found out about it, and she told me that's too much money, or there could be other reasons. For whatever reason,
Maybe because he's not going.
well, he knew he wasn't going, but he said, I'm going to give. He gives a wad of cash to his friends, puts it in an envelope, and says, "Give this to Yankel the Chassan when you get there." And I realize I've made a mistake. Maybe I just found out something about Yankel the Chassan that makes me regret having sent him the gift. Who knows, right? So anyway, Ha'im ani acholi hitcharet al ze velomar lachaveri shelo latet et chol hasikum alo. Am I permissible to instruct my friend? I'll call him up and I'll tell, or I'll text him and I'll say, you know that envelope I gave you? Either hold on to the whole thing, or, there's 5 $100 bills in there. Take out 4, put it in your pocket, and just give him $100. Am I allowed to do that once I've already made him my shaliach to give this gift, and I've already allocated $500 to my friend for his wedding? So, what are the issues? You're now dayanim. What are the issues?
Can you change your shlichus since it's been said?
Can you change your shlichus?
Can you give the guy? Or can you
think-
involve him?
think
Well,
the real issue
I
is
transferred money to him,
So
so,
there's a kinyan.
well, it seems like, it's a
Well,
form of a
it won't be
The
kinyan.
problem not telling him to,
No, but at the
Well, not
moment,
to
the
give it
Kenyans
to
with the shliach. So in essence, he's still you.
The shliach
He
is
hasn't
his,
handed the he hasn't handed the envelope over. You're
Right,
asking now for it to
right.
be given back. So there is a kinyan between you and the shliach, and it's
not
a job
between the
to-
shliach and the person.
but not
and the
between
recipients,
shliach
yeah.
and the person
Yes,
that
I think
delivers.
the real issue is whether the gift's effective, whether it's given to a shliach or not.
Mhm.
In
Is that
secular
what he
law,
gives it? Or
it's
what-
not a gift until 3 things are there. One is your intention to give a gift. 2, the intention is received by the person and you've effected delivery of the goods or transferred the check
All
or
3
whatever
have
it
to
is.
be effective?
And in this case, what you're missing is it hasn't reached
The
the
chassan.
recipient of the gift yet.
Yeah.
So until, in secular law, until that happens, you can retract the gift.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, will it make a difference if the guy that I'm giving the money to is also a friend of the chatan?
No.
Why should that make a
and-
difference?
Well, let's say he says, I'm accepting gifts on behalf of Yankel. Do you want to give any
who's-
gift?
Or if he told the chassan, I have a gift for you from so and
well,
so.
whose
Yeah.
shliach is
So
it?
it could be a double agent.
It could be a double agent,
Yeah.
that's the thing. And I'm not sure if it would make a difference, Moish, if there was disclosure or not. So first of all, in this kind of situation, first of all, maybe the gift, there was disclosure that he was picking up a gift, but we don't know how much it is.
What,
But-
That's
what,
true too. Or
Yeah.
but if he says, I have a gift for $500
well,
for
right,
you.
Yeah.
if you told his friend, the father of the uncle, that he was gonna give.
But what is the
$500,
problem here?
Now he's committed.
Right, so we haven't seen that
Yeah,
he's,
yeah,
that
that's
he's,
not what
that
it
he
says.
said anything.
What is he being owed? Like, what is the problem of reneging? What are you being owed?
The question is, was the chassan already kona the money when it got into the shaliach's hands?
Or has
And
he
the-
committed to an offering that now he wants to attract? In other words, did he make a verbal or conscious?
Has he committed to it?
Right.
We only really say that with tzedakah. With tzedakah, we say that once you make a commitment either through action or through word, then you're obligated to follow through. But this is not a tzedakah case. Let's assume it's not a tzedakah case, okay? You're allowed to retract the gift. You're allowed to retract the gift. So even if you've already given it to your shaliach, the question is, how do we judge this fellow who's transporting the gift that's going to the wedding? Is he acting as my agent, or is he acting as an agent for both myself and for the chassan?
If someone I've had over the years where people make a commitment to the shul for a function,
Yeah,
and then 2 weeks before the function, they say, I'm sorry, something's come up, I can't give you the $5,400, I can only give you 1,800. They've already made that commitment.
So that's actually a tzedakah. That's a tzedakah shaila. Is a person allowed to retract his pledge if he's experienced an economic change in fortune?
Or whatever, even his wife goes nuts and wants to divorce him because, whatever, you come up with a million scenarios of why things change.
There are cases, like, for example, a guy giving a girl an engagement ring as a gift. And then 2 weeks later, he retracts and says, I want my ring back.
Yeah,
There
he
are
breaks
cases
off the
in court,
engagement,
right?
yeah.
You get to keep the ring.
right.
So.
We did discuss this. Yeah,
In secular law too, it may be she gets to keep the ring unconditionally, or sometimes the law looks at it as it's a conditional gift.
that's right.
And if you
On
break
marriage.
it off, right, you don't get to keep it, you have to give it to let her keep it.
Right. Okay. So let's see which direction he's taking with this. Hagemara omeret begitin. Adam shalova kesef. Va'amar lechavero. A person who's a debtor, he owes money, and he says to his friend, "Heilach mana leploni shani chayav lo." Take this money that I owe to Ploni, and give him the money. Amar Rav, haloi v'chayav ba'achrayuso ad sheyagia hamana leploni hamalva. So Rav is of the opinion that you have not fulfilled your payback to the creditor until it gets into his hands. Despite the fact that you're not considered having paid back to the creditor until it gets into his hands, Rav is still of the opinion that once you gave the money to a shaliach, you cannot retract the money. You cannot, what's it called? You cannot recall the money. The Kevin Sha'amar Holech Mana Leploni, Hamalva Kvar Zacha Bazeh, Kevin Shaloshan Hoylech Nechshav Kilomar Leshliach Zakelo. He says, by virtue of the language that you used when you appointed the proxy, you said to him, take this. You said, take this to Ploni. Take this to the creditor. By saying, take this to the creditor, it is as if you said to the shaliach, acquire this for the creditor. And because of that, once you've actually made this guy not only your shaliach, but you've made him a shaliach on behalf of the creditor as well, by using that language. And therefore, the shaliach, even if you call him on he's halfway en route, and you say, don't pay the guy back yet, I just realized I need that money for an emergency, and he'll have to wait a little bit longer to get paid back, the shaliach can say to you, I'm sorry, I've already acquired it on behalf of that person. Nothing doing.
And that's why you shouldn't have dual agencies, like the double, buyer, the same agent for buyer and a seller.
That's right,
Because there's a
that's right.
conflict of interest.
That's right. And of course, the agents need to everyone needs to make a commission, right?
Who has two masters?
That's right. Ushmuel Cholek, it's all like we live, sometimes the halacha or the law, especially in the secular law, is set up to create an adversarial situation unnecessarily, but sometimes it is necessary. Ushmuel Cholek v'sover kevin shahakesef adain be'achrayuso shel halove hu yachol lachzor bo. And Shmuel disagrees. So Shmuel says, no matter what you said, so long as the debtor still has not fulfilled his payback, he can always retract and withdraw the proxyship. V'nifsika halacha bazeh kedas Rav, kevin sheyesh braysa mefureshes shemesayat lo. In this instance, we paskin, the Gemara says, like Rav, because he has a braysa that supports him. V'lachein asul l'shliach lahachzul loy ve'es hakesef. And therefore, the shaliach may not return the money, even if the guy calls him while en route and says, don't take the money to the creditor. V'im hechzur lo es hakesef shelo kedin, ve'achar kach ein efsharut lamalva legavot mehalovet hakesef shemagia lo. Let's say the shaliach does listen to the debtor and actually doesn't give the money to the creditor and says brings it back to the debtor. Okay, and then it turns out later that the creditor is not able to collect because the debtor is nowhere to be found. Hashaliach chayev l'shalim l'malveh et kol hakesef, kevin shehu pasha shehechzer lo et hakesef. The psak is that the shaliach now becomes liable.
Wow.
You stole my money.
Sure.
You were an agent to bring that money to me. You failed to bring it to me, and now I can't find the debtor to get the loan.
So,
You owe me. I can sue you, the agent, the agency, right, that was in charge of transporting the money. Okay, we'll have to continue this Mir Hashem
that
tomorrow.
can happen very easily, because if you say to